Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and today's interview is the director of products for this company called Savvius. Savvius has appliances and software that allows you to analyze what's going on at the network level in your infrastructure. So it actually is able to collect all the packets, be able to store all the packets, and then you're able to run reports and try to figure out what's going on in the network. So if you have something happening, your network slows down for some unexplainable reason, you can go in, you can see all the data that's been transmitted on your network and try to figure out where the problem is. Has your print server been turned into a BitTorrent client or something like that? This software allows you to go and see all the traffic that's happening on the network. So it allows you to look at the traffic from just a standard maintenance troubleshooting standpoint. They also have security appliances to help you look at the packet traffic from a security standpoint, so on and so forth. So I think these are very good products. Again, this isn't McAfee, this isn't Nintendo, this isn't PlayStation or virtual reality, but this is the kind of equipment that actually makes real infrastructure do what the hell real infrastructure is supposed to do. So I think it's pretty cool stuff. Even if you can't afford it, even if you don't need it, I think you should definitely take a listen to what they're talking about, because it's like I say, it's pretty nifty neat. They have this one appliance and actually can store up to 128 terabytes of data. So all the packet information all the information getting sent on the network, it can actually collect all of that, store that into a data storage device that holds up to 128 terabytes of data, and then you can go back and you can see all the packets that have gone in your network. You can see you can see the payloads in the packets, you can see the documents, you can see all of that kind of stuff. So again, whether you're looking for something to make your infrastructure work better, or you just want to know how just not bleeding edge being able to look at what kind of data is being transmitted on a network is, I think you should take a look at Savvius. But before we get into that, we of course have to talk about our sponsors, because our sponsors are what help pay the bills. So our first sponsor of the day is Veeam, Veeam, free backup for PCs, VMs, and Linux, all at veeam.com. Dev Mountain is a 12-week web development, iOS, and UX design bootcamp intended to get you a full-time job in the industry. Learn to code at devmountain.com. INE specializes in network training with hands-on labs, on-site bootcamps, and a focus on delivering the best in online networking courses. INE.com. Schoolie Mitchell's purpose is to increase clients' profit by reducing telecom costs using software and processes at no risk. We only share savings. SchoolieMitchell.com. Plixer, with Scrutinizer and flow data, users can determine what traffic is on the network, who is originating the traffic, and who is receiving it. Plixer.com. And finally, Gilware Data Recovery. Gilware's partner programs help computer repair and IT professionals make money by offering data recovery and backup services to their customers. Gilware.com. As I say, do not care if you thumb up, do not care if you thumb down, do not care if you leave a comment or subscribe, but if you could click on the sponsor links below, that is very helpful, because that is what actually helps pay the bills. So with that, let's jump into this interview with Savvius and learn about some of this really, 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 really cool networking technology that is currently out there on the market. Anybody can buy it right now, because it's some pretty nifty, neato stuff. Yeah. So we're here with Jay Botello, the Director of Products for Savvius, and so we're going to be talking about their security products today and understanding where they fit into the enterprise world. Happy to have you here.
Thanks, Eli. Pleasure to be here.
So I guess the first question is, so you are Director of Products. What does that actually mean, though? What is your job at the company?
Right. Well, and it's a relatively new role for me. Director of
Okay.
Products, it really incorporates product management, development, and QA. So all of it rolled into one. It's an interesting mix. You normally wouldn't find a guy with a product management background like me running development,
Yeah.
but it works, and I think it works well here because I kind of bring a business focus, or a business perspective to what engineering, needs to do, and it's
Yeah.
kind of appreciated by the engineers.
So because one of the things, like when I'm talking with my viewers, one of the issues that comes up nowadays is all these job titles. So with Director of Products, is that something you folks concocted, or is that a normal title? Like if you
Yeah,
put that on your resume, it would be like, oh yeah.
I think it's something we concocted.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it had the product management and the development focus. So yeah, I don't think other people would know what it is. Takes an explanation.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just got to ask. So then, so what does Savvius do? What are the products that you guys create and sell then?
Right. So Savvius, we are basically in the network performance diagnostics space. So
Okay.
anybody who wants to do troubleshooting on their network and wants to do it at an extremely detailed level, like down at the packet level, or at least needs the details that one can extract from packets to be able to solve
Yeah.
the problem. That's basically the business we've been in for the past 25 plus years.
Okay. So do you just sell products? Do you do consulting? Do you work on other people's stuff? How does that work out?
Right. So we are a product company nowadays. There was a period of
Okay.
time where we did a little bit of consulting with our professional services, but not nowadays. We're a product company, both hardware and software.
Okay, you do the hardware too. And then just so we know too, like I say with names and all that. So I was taking a look at your company and I hadn't heard of Savvius before your PR person got a hold of me. But I had actually heard of Wild Packets. And so then I look at this names, it says you were founded in 1990 as AG Group, became Wild Packets in 2000, and then just turned into Savvius in 2015. But it doesn't talk about like sales. It's not like it doesn't sound like you were acquired or anything. What's up with the name changes?
Yeah, yeah, no, we were never acquired. The
Okay.
name changes were maybe just to keep up with the times is the best way to answer it. AG Group, I wasn't here when it was AG Group. That was a really long time ago. I've been here for 11 plus years. I've been here for a while, but
Okay. Yeah.
AG Group sounded too much like a financial planning group or a set of lawyers. So they got away
Yeah.
from AG Group, went to Wild Packets. That was a good
Yeah.
name for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason we changed away from Wild Packets in the last couple of years was because we started to introduce products in the security arena as well. So besides just the network performance diagnostics, we're doing, again, packet level stuff, relying on what we do well, but doing it in security. And the
Yeah.
feeling was that the packets part of the name and even the kitschy part of wild was just
Yeah.
not really the right thing for the security market. So
Okay.
so we went with Savvius.
It's does it mean something? Is that like a combination of words I should know or
No, it was really just playing off savvy, bunch of
yeah.
savvy engineers kind of thing. Yeah,
Okay, cool. So you've been around like about 20, 25, 26 years then.
yeah.
Where is Savvius then? Where in the world are you located?
We are in Walnut Creek, California, which is just a little bit east of San Francisco and Oakland.
Okay.
So if you went across the bridge from San Francisco to Oakland, kept going
Yeah.
east, and, about 10 miles in, you'd hit us.
Ah, okay. So I normally ask people why they are where they are, but it's probably self-explanatory there.
Yeah, yeah. It's loosely Silicon Valley. We're definitely north of the valley, but not by a lot. So there's still a wide range of engineers to pull from, but it's a little quieter up here.
That's cool. Have you guys always been located around there?
Always in Walnut Creek. Yeah, yeah.
Really? Okay. Cool. Cool. So then, when you're looking at Savvius's demographic, so when you're doing the packet inspection, all that, what companies are you folks going after? Like what size? 50-person companies, 50,000-person companies?
Right. So we do go after a wide range. What the
Okay.
the the qualification that I would use is we mainly focus on enterprises. So anybody with an enterprise network, we don't really focus on telecoms. We're not that end of the space. That we're not that type of network. We're
Yeah.
people's individual IP networks, whether they're
Okay.
in VoIP on those networks or whatever they're doing. That's really where we focus. I would say in terms of size, our sweet spot is really more to the medium to large. Those are the kind of companies we're typically selling to. They're the ones that are buying our bigger appliances.
Yeah.
But because we still have a software component, you mentioned OmniPeek earlier, and um, uh, that can be used as a standalone packet capture software. And
Yeah.
we also offer a very low-end device that we introduced a few years ago. So that does move us back down into the small business. Like, for example, we're 65, 70 people here,
Yeah.
and we use our very smallest appliance. It monitors our internet link on an ongoing basis. It's been doing it for, I don't know, a year and a half without going down. And
Yeah.
it works great for our size business. And it's a very small appliance, and then we can scale from there.
So when you're, because again, people always say things like small and medium size, and that can mean anything. So like, is a small business like 50 people or 10 people? Do you
Yeah, no,
figure?
I would say it's more like us, like 50, 60 people. I mean, a reasonable sized internet connection,
Yeah,
somewhere where there's enough users where you do potentially have network problems and things to solve. It's not a dentist's office,
yeah, yeah.
they're going to outsource that to somebody else anyway. They're not going to monitor or manage their own network.
Yeah,
So
okay.
usually, so yeah, 50 plus.
50, and then like, what would you consider like a medium-sized company?
For us, in the 500-ish kind of range is our medium-sized companies, and the large
Yeah,
are,
yeah. Then there,
5,000
yeah.
plus, and we have many companies on the large side. We have some gigantic companies that are users of our products.
Okay, yeah. Well, like I say, like especially with a lot of my viewers, it's funny when you deal with some small businesses. They'll be like, "Oh, I don't know if you can handle a network my size," and you're like, "Oh, how big is it?" And you find out it's like 20
Yeah,
computers, and you're like, "Yeah, no, that's
that would
not a
be
big
kind of
deal."
small for us.
And then, so who, like, what IT profession do you figure would actually be deploying and maintaining your equipment in the field? Are these like sysadmins? Are these network like Cisco people? Like, who do you figure is actually using your equipment?
Yeah, and it's usually the folks using our equipment inside the enterprise usually have network in their title somewhere. So either a network
Okay.
engineer or a network analyst. They probably do have some level of certification. Maybe not that matters, but they probably have. In the end, they need to understand the network, and they also really need to understand, at some level, the protocols themselves. Because typically, once you get to our products, and you're troubleshooting a problem, these are typically layer 2, layer 3 kind of problems that our products are helping you solve. So
Yeah.
it's not your average IT kind of guy who's there more to do system setups or configure PCs, that kind of stuff. It's usually kind of a layer more than that.
So it's more the Cisco Juniper folks rather than like the MCSEs.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. And then so with Savvius, then just so these folks just have an approximation, like what are your price points then? Like what are the normal deployments cost?
Yeah, and again, pretty wide, depending on the size of the companies. But if you were, we'll go to the big ones first. I won't undercut it. Our big companies, like for example, Boeing is one of our customers, gigantic company.
Yeah.
Their deployments with us and most of their purchases with us would be large. And any company that size, it's usually six-figure kind of things.
Okay.
Our appliances themselves range from about 13K, on up. It depends how you configure them. Again, they're designed to capture packets off the network.
Yeah.
So
Oh, be careful with hitting your table.
sorry about
Oh,
that.
yeah, no worries.
One of the key things is being able to capture the packets reliably. And the
Okay.
expensive component of that is the NIC you use to capture the packets. Your
Interesting.
average Intel NIC is usually
Yeah.
not good enough to capture packets at a very high speed and not drop any packets.
Oh, okay.
It's designed to route and switch and that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily designed to capture packets. So the cards
Oh,
we use to do that are relatively expensive. And that's what drives up the cost of these appliances. And a 1 gig card is certainly cheaper than a 10 gig card, cheaper than a 40 gig card. So, it can easily go up from there. But appliances start, like I say, at around 13K and go up from there. We also sell just software. So if you were in a really small office and wanted to do network analysis, you could run our software on a laptop and go in and use the NIC within the laptop and go span a port on a switch or a router and plug one end into the port and one end into your computer, and you could analyze packets right there with your laptop. And that's more
okay.
a $2,500 to $5,000 solution, just for the software. So
Okay.
the range is there again, more depending on the customer's workflow and the size of the company and whether they want to do 24/7 monitoring or just an intermittent troubleshooting.
Okay. But for the people that are watching, these are thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, not tens or hundreds of dollars.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And then
Yeah,
if they,
there's nothing that we sell in the tens or hundreds of dollars, with the exception of USB adapters that you can use to use our product with wireless. But you need to have the rest of the product, so you can't buy just the $59 adapter and expect to
Yeah.
do anything. You need the software with it. So yeah, which gets you in
Uh,
costs.
and then whether it's the hardware or the software, especially in this modern day of subscriptions, how hefty are the maintenance fees or the service agreements? Once they've spent that $13,000 for a box,
Right.
is that basically it, or is it going to be another $13,000 over the life of the product in service fees?
Nowadays, we've kind of learned most of our appliances we bundle with 3 years of maintenance
Oh,
and service. So
okay.
we factor it into the cost because we just know how important it is, and people don't like that feeling of an added fee every year kind of thing. And you can extend
Yeah.
it to 5 if you want to, that kind of thing. But generally for the hardware, it's built in. For the software, you would pay kind of industry standard kind of rates to buy maintenance on the software. And
Yeah.
for us, that means always getting upgrades whenever they become available, and access to support and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And since I mentioned support, I'll put in a plug for them. Even though we're a small company, I would say one of the key factors behind this is we really do have excellent product support and technical support.
Okay.
I watch most of our technical support email. I see the kinds of questions we get. Our guys are excellent at answering these questions, and always staying on top of it, making sure every customer's questions get answered, even if it's not strictly about the product, even if it's more about doing network analysis, which is not really what tech support's there to answer. They'll try their hardest to get people going in the right direction with our products.
All right. And then I guess that comes up with the service maintenance contracts, because a lot of new people don't realize one of the reasons maintenance contracts can be so expensive is because how much work the people are willing to do. Like a lot of companies will actually remote into equipment and actually set up some of the configurations. Do you go that far? Like if I was having a problem configuring my box, do you have a level of service agreement where they would actually come and try to do that?
We only have one level of service.
Oh.
That's pretty much
All right.
it. But we do go that far. I mean, there are times when they'll set up a WebEx and then ask to share the screen and get in and take control if the customer is willing to do that and help them get it configured. A lot of times we find we don't need to do that, though, because one of the other aspects of selling our appliances with the 3 years of maintenance and warranty right up front is we also include on-site installation if the customer chooses to take advantage of that, and many do. So
Okay.
usually it's one of our sales engineers or professional services guys that goes on site with an appliance and gets it installed, gets it plugged in, gives them a few hours of kind of training and coaching on how to use the software and the hardware together. So I would say I find that the number of problems that come into tech support that are related at that level are low. It's typically more kind of usage kind of questions or configuration kind of questions to maybe do something new that wasn't set up by the SE.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So we've been talking about all this different things about the company. So let's talk about your products then, because you have a few products. The first one I was seeing is it's the Omnipliance. So what does that do?
Yeah, OmniPliance, that is kind of our, on the hardware side, that's really our flagship appliance. It's in multiple flavors, but OmniPliance in general is it's something that a network engineer or a network analyst would kind of rack into the equipment with some of the other switches and routers. And as I was mentioning earlier with the capture cards, it includes usually one to four, depending on how you configure it, network interface cards that are specifically designed for packet capture. So you would wire this into your network in such a way that you're getting the packet feed that you're interested in, whether that's a full out packet feed from a 10 gig full duplex a link, or maybe it's some subset that you want to do, but you would bring that packet feed into the appliance, and the appliance captures those packets 24/7 on an ongoing basis, analyzes every packet down to the payload, and then acquires statistics and gives the users the option to also write those packets to disk. Most of our OmniPliances have a significant amount of storage in them. Our largest OmniPliance, which is the TL, has 64 terabytes, and then you can buy a 64 terabytes sub-storage system to go on top of that. So they can write 128 terabytes of disk. And it sounds like a lot, but if you're on a 10 gig network and you write all of your packets to disk that you're collecting at 10 or 12 gigabits per second, you'd barely get a day in that much storage because there's just that many packets. And then that's the functional end of it. The workflow end of it is what the network engineer is going to do with that is whenever there's a problem or a potential problem. Number one, he's got a dashboard from our software that connects to the appliance to show him things like the ongoing utilization, top talkers, top applications, top protocols, that kind of stuff. If they were to see anything odd or get calls from help desk calls or whatever that there are problems going on, they can do forensic searches or searches into that packet data. So from our UI, you choose a selection of time. Maybe you choose an IP address range. Maybe you even choose an application or a set of applications. You say, I want to see the packets from this time range, this set of IP addresses, these applications. Retrieve those packets for me. And it will go and it'll put those in a buffer and analyze just that set of packets for you in a very detailed way. So you can see everything about that set of packets, everything that went on, the protocols, the flows, who was talking to who, and all different views in the software that connects to the appliance to help you troubleshoot and get to the root cause of network problems.
So when you're trying to do a report or something like that, though, and you click the go, like how many pots of coffee can you drink before it comes back with results? Because I'm just thinking like 64 terabytes to analyze and then give you results of. Seems like it would take you a while.
Yeah, no. So and that's really a fair question and a good question. So, like I was saying, with that forensic search, we do try to encourage people to search on a narrow range of time, right? And a reasonable set of IP addresses and protocols. And if you do that, the resulting analytics comes back relatively quickly, seconds to minutes, okay?
Yeah, okay.
But if you're going to go say, hey, I want to see all the packets from the last half hour, okay, you might maybe not a pot of coffee, but you can go get coffee and walk away from your desk and come back because it's going to take, a 10-minute kind of range for it to go back and analyze that amount of data. And you didn't ask this question, but for those that are thinking ahead, you might also wonder, okay, so you're writing to disk at, 10, let's just say 10 gigabits per second, and now you want to pull packets off the disk to move into an analysis buffer. What happens there? And same thing there. We always err on the side of not dropping packets. So if you're writing really, really fast at any given time, it might take a little bit longer to retrieve the data because we're trying to maintain the data fidelity of what you're capturing. Because you might want to go back and look at something else later. So we don't want to be dropping packets because you're trying to analyze something, from a few minutes before. So, yeah.
So then the people that purchase the Omnipliance, are these generally, is it preventive maintenance? These people have big budgets, or has something blown up and they're trying to figure out what happened?
Typically that methodology would be they've had problems in the past that have blown up. They had a really difficult time solving them, and they realized that what they really needed was packet data to solve those problems. And then they become a customer, and they rack our stuff in 24/7, and they find it's so much easier. It comes from two directions, right? Number one, they've had that problem before, and they realize they need it. But then number two, they also realize that the time it takes to reproduce a problem, if you haven't already captured the packets, is sometimes so huge, right, that it's well worth the expense of these kind of systems because if there was a problem, you recorded the problem. You don't need to wait for it to happen again. You don't need to reproduce it. All of the data is there and available to you. Now it's just a matter of analysis. And that's usually not the longest pole in the tent. I mean, reproduction is often the long pole in the tent. So that's pretty important for our customers. But typically, they've had problems in the past and realize that they really need to have that packet data.
Huh, that's interesting. And so with that, then, what are the approximate price points for one of those? Like, where do they start and where do they go to?
Right. So our in the Omnipliances, we have one that's dedicated actually to Wi-Fi of all things, and that will actually collect data from access points through the controller and come back to our Omnipliance Wi-Fi. That actually is our least expensive appliance. That sells for $12,995. And then our CX, once you put a reasonable network interface card in it for capture, is in the $20,000 to $22,000 range. Then we have an MX, which is more like for data centers, and that's in a $45K range. And then our TL is the one that you would put on a really fast backbone, perhaps, in that kind of area. and that could sell for $70K plus, depending on those network interface cards.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. Can you upgrade these things once you buy one, or do you need? It's kind of like a Mac. You need to buy the exact one you're gonna always
You,
need.
you, we don't yeah we don't really offer a lot of different configurations. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that people upgrade that really would upgrade that often. So not really, but you can. We've gone in before and changed out disks for people to give them different capacity, or changed out RAM to give them more RAM capacity. But typically they're quite well loaded, as they come.
Yeah.
The only thing that people can do is we do offer like additional storage in an external unit. So if you bought the TL and you bought a 64 terabyte and then you decided, I want 128 terabyte, you can buy another disk system to plug on top of it. That's mainly where the expansion kind of comes from. Or they might add another network interface card. That's probably the most common upgrade. They buy it with one and they decide, I want a second card. I want to be able to do more captures. Different network segments. I want to maybe, I don't want to capture the whole thing. I want to break it down into individual elements, and they can do that. And that's one of the nice things about the network interface cards that we support. They're auto sensing, so they're 1 gig or 10 gig. So depending on what you plug in, if you plug in a 1 gig, it'll do it'll do 1 gig. If you plug in a 10 gig, it'll do 10 gig. So that helps for people because a lot of times they don't want to have to buy multiple cards. In some cases, vendors only sell a 1 gig card or a 10 gig card, and if you want both, you have to buy both. We have the auto switching card, which is nice, and you can even do 40. We can't capture at 40 gig today. No one captures packets at 40 gigabits per second, flat out. But at least you can connect to a 40 gig network. So yeah.
Is that like motherboard issues? Is it hard drive issues? Why can nobody? Because we're coming out with 100 gigs per second, so it's kind of interesting. You're saying 40 is
right. It's a many issues, but certainly one of the issues is just writing to the disks themselves. There, eventually, certainly with spinning media, you just hit some physical limits in there. And also depending on how many disks you can split across, et cetera. I think you can certainly go faster in parallel. I mean, you could put multiple units in there and go to 20 gig each and write it 100 gig. My feeling is the networks get that fast, you're going to find that people don't want to store all of their packet data anyway. It's just too much, right? Then we need to get into some form of intelligent packet storage, and that's technology that we're working on right now, so that we just let's make sure the right packets are there. You don't need that. You don't need everything. You want to solve the problem. As long as we put the right packets there to solve the problem, we've done the right thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be 100 gig worth of data.
Makes sense. And then so with this, if you had multiple Omnipliances, do you have like one central dashboard where you can actually pull in all that? Like, can I get a report from 5 different appliances?
You can. We do long-term storage that way, and we actually can roll data up to, like, any one of our appliances can export data either to Splunk. I don't know if you're familiar with Splunk, right, or Elk. But for those that are listening who may not be familiar with Splunk or Elk, just in general, they're the same class of products where they can take in basically log type information, or really any kind of information, but they started with logs, and real big data solutions where they take in huge scale of data. We don't want to have to reinvent that technology. So we one of our customers, if they're already a Splunk customer, great, they can use their Splunk. If they're not, if they want to prefer to go open source, they could use ELK or Elk and just export the data from multiple appliances into the database from those systems.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Cool. Then, okay, so that's the Omnipliance. Then you have, what is Insight?
So Insight, that's good that you went in that order. Insight it's a lot like our Omnipliance, only it's too bad I don't have one behind, because I don't have one in here. It's a very small form factor appliance, like our Omnipliance. I mean, it's about that big. So it may the size of an access point, that kind of range, and it's designed to do the same kind of functionality, only it just has a 1 gig port on it It actually looks like a router in the back. It's got 4 1 gig ports, and you can use that to monitor very small networks. Like
Okay. Yeah.
earlier when I was mentioning about using our own appliance here at our office with 60-something people, we use the Insight appliance because it's small. It does what we need to do, though. It's got 1 gig connections. It'll analyze, basically around 100 megabit per second network. And for us, what we watch is our internet connection. And, we contract for 80 megabits per second. It's about right for a company our size, 50, 60 people. And that little appliance does the job all day long. It also reports to an ELK server if you want to, so we can have long-term statistics from the box. And we can also look at packet data, from the last day or so, or, and troubleshoot problems with it. And the reason we went with that box is it's a much less expensive box. There really wasn't a good solution in the market for really small businesses like ours, or maybe even for smaller businesses where they're farming out their network administration to, a sysadmin or a network engineer for hire. You may not want to have to drive there all the time. Well, for the price of this Insight box, he could put one in that dental office and always just log in and see what their network looks like at any given moment in time. And the box is $1,500 versus, the 13K and on up that we were talking for the other appliances. So it's a big difference.
Okay. I guess that's one question thinking about this because I've talked with other network analysis companies, and they get vendor specific. Is your equipment agnostic? Will it work with Cisco and Juniper and Netgear and whatever else? Will it still do what it's supposed to do?
Oh yeah. We actually because we really are just down at the packet level, and then packets are packets. So okay. Somebody, occasionally there'll be proprietary formats on packets, or somebody will do something proprietary, especially in the VoIP kind of space, but it's all packets. Yeah,
it's all packets. Okay, that's making sure there. So then we got the Insight, and then we have the next one was the Vigil.
So yeah, Vigil. So another piece of hardware. Vigil is our first foray into security. So, and that was introduced maybe about 18 months ago. Part of the reason why we changed our name, back to that theme. Vigil is it's a slight twist on what we do, and it kind of addresses one of the issues we were just talking about, which is storing massive amounts of data. So for Vigil, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make packet data available for security engineers, when they want to analyze maybe certain alerts or certain alarms that are coming out of their intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. And a lot of times to analyze those, they really do want to see the packets, especially if they think it's really a potential breach or there really was a breach. They really do need to see the network data, because that's a complete recording of what happened. You'll see who came into the network, how did they come into the network, did they FTP anything out of the network. All of that becomes blatantly obvious to you when you have the network packets. But they want to have that data for a long period of time, unlike the network engineer who maybe can just have packets for a day, and if no problems are reported in that day, okay, that packet data rolled away off the disks, not a problem. Now I have, today's set of packet data. That works for a network guy. But for a security guy, far too often, even though they're trying to be proactive, these breaches aren't identified for months. We can name the unfortunate businesses who that's happened to. It's been done so many times, I won't do it. But regardless of how prepared you are, you're going to get breached, and you want to have that packet data, which means you want to have it for months. And we can't do that at these gigabit per second rates, even with 128 terabytes of storage, right? What Vigil does is it relies on feeds from intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. So they're always analyzing for certain vulnerabilities and threats, right? And when they find them, they send out an alarm or an alert. And usually that comes in the form of syslog. So we actually have our customers do a separate feed from the IDS IPS, the syslog output. It comes into Vigil. So that's pretty straightforward. It's already doing that. It's already generating the syslog. We just have it go to a duplicate address, send it to Vigil. And Vigil is also racked like our traditional network appliances, such that it's got a network feed always coming in. So it's looking at all the packets.
Yeah.
So, but before writing any of those packets to long-term storage, it just buffers some period of time of those packets. And then when we see the alert come in, we look at the alert and we say, okay, that alert involves a flow, a conversation between one IP address and another. So let's just save the packets from that flow. Or if the customer wants, maybe everybody that those endpoints have talked to. But it's certainly a much, much smaller set of the data, usually 1% or less of your overall data. And we just write that to disk. And we tie it to the alert. So it's indexed to the alert. So now, whether it's an hour later or months later, a security analyst could come back and say, wow, 2 months ago, I saw, we think something happened. And now I'm looking back at these alerts and I'm thinking, well, we should have looked more closely at these. What was going on here? They click on the alert and it can take them, it'll take them right to the packets that were involved at the time period of that alert, from 5 minutes before it triggered to 5 minutes after it triggered. So you've got this history of network data, of true recording of what happened at the time of the alert.
That's pretty cool. So then if it gets triggered off of syslog, is it that basically just any intrusion detection that exports to syslog will work with it, or is it specific ones?
No, that's essentially true. I mean, we do have a specific set right now that we support. There is a set of about 10 IDS IPS systems right now. And it's very easy to support a new one, but the only challenge is that even though they all output syslog, the format's a little bit different for everybody, right? So we actually now have we call it the universal parser, but we have a parser on there that makes it very easy to tweak what's coming in and interpret the format and pretty much take in anybody's format. But it does require just a little bit of configuration if the format is new. I mean, the other thing we find is even with a single vendor, all of a sudden they do a new release of their software and the format changes. So we've made it very easy to adapt to that, but there is a small bit of adaptation that needs to happen.
How hard is that for the end user to actually use? Because sometimes I hear that it's like, oh, it parses a thing, and all. It's supposed to be really easy to create a report, and then you sit there for like 5 hours, like, why isn't it's not? It's recording a whole bunch of stuff I don't want, and it's not recording anything I do want. Like, how hard is it?
Right. No, it is. It's pretty easy. What it basically relies on, if the user can understand and write regex expressions, then they can easily configure or reconfigure that feed, that syslog feed, into the box to interpret whatever format the syslog is in. But it does require that level of knowledge. But otherwise, it's really quite easy.
Okay, that's my sure. And then, so then the product that you guys actually pinged me about, your PR person, so then you have the OmniPeek product. So what is that? So that's your new version. Yeah.
Yeah, it's our new version of probably our oldest product. So OmniPeek is software. So everything else you've read about so far was hardware, and that hardware is really designed to be the interface that captures the data and does local analysis. But OmniPeek is the software that serves two purposes. It's either the console into those appliances. So anybody that has an appliance uses at least a flavor of OmniPeek, because that's the way they connect to their appliance and configure it, decide to tell it which packets to capture, the results that are calculated on the appliance are displayed in OmniPeek. OmniPeek doesn't do the analysis if there's an appliance in place, but it does display the results. And then OmniPeek is also a standalone piece of software, like I mentioned earlier, so that if you've got a very small office and you really just need to do occasional troubleshooting, or you're an independent consultant that goes out and does network troubleshooting, or more even specifically for wireless, a lot of times where you need to be where the problem is. If it's a wireless problem, OmniPeek can run on your laptop. You can either use the network interface port on your laptop to capture wired data, or you can use a subset of commercially available USB wireless LAN adapters that we support that you would plug onto your laptop to do local wireless captures. But then OmniPeek does the whole thing. Instead of using an appliance to capture all those packets, OmniPeek itself captures the packets, does the analysis, and you interact with it all right there on the screen with OmniPeek. Comes in a few different flavors. We have a professional version, which works well for the system, the independent system integrators, and for wireless. And then we have an enterprise version, which includes some additional web analysis and additional VoIP analysis that you don't get with the professional version. It's a very full-featured set of software. Like I said, it's when we were way back when, the AG group, as you mentioned, and Wildpack is all the way through there. We were a software company up till about maybe 10 years ago when we started selling these appliances. And it was a precursor to OmniPeek, had a different name, but the OmniPeek software is essentially that software that we've been working on for a very long time, doing that protocol analysis. What we've done with 10, what's new with version 10 is, as you can tell, we've talked a lot about the networking side. OmniPeek and most of our product line has always been dedicated toward the network engineers. But with the introduction of Vigil and our turn toward the security space, we wanted to make the analysis of network data for security analysts a little bit easier. And even OmniPeek in the past, and certainly any products like it, they're very much geared toward network engineers. So with OmniPeek 10, we have a lot of new views that really help the security analyst look at packet data without having to understand packets or look at packets themselves. It introduces a new files view so that for any traffic that's going back and forth on HTTP, we can reconstruct any files that are being transferred over HTTP, and you get these little thumbnail views of all the files. Great for security engineers because that's one of the things they're often looking at, what was transferred. We have the ability to import security events, just like we do with Vigil with those alerts that come out of the IDS IPS. We can import those same type of files from certain intrusion detection systems and import the alerts into OmniPeek. So now you can overlay the alerts with the packet data. So you can see, oh, I got a security alert here, and I got some network alerts here, and then look at the packets around them, or at least look at the reconstruction of the data around that period of time and see what was going on at the time of those security alerts, what users were active, what protocols were they talking. Maybe there was FTP going on in there. Maybe the alert refers to FTP. You could drill in and see, hey, what were they sending over FTP? Was that legitimate traffic? Was that, not? So really, really suited. OmniPeek 10 is toward the security analysts, really trying to make it easier for them to be able to do this network analysis because it's not a comfort zone for them.
Yeah. That's interesting. So what's like the price point for the OmniPeek?
Yeah, OmniPeek, the two flavors, the professional flavor is $2,500 and the or $24,995, but okay, $2,500, and the enterprise version is $5,000.
So you need OmniPeek to use the other products. So you were saying like with Insight was like 1,500. Is it 1,500 plus 2,500?
Yeah, that's a good question. That would seem a little excessive to somebody that only spent $1,500 for a box. So in the case of Insight, what we do is we have a special version of OmniPeek. It's called OmniPeek Insight. You can only use it with Insight. You can't use it with our other appliances. You can't use it standalone like I described, but you can use it with Insight, and that comes for free with Insight. And the same thing is true with our larger appliances, though the percentage price wouldn't seem as big if we required our users to buy OmniPeek, but we still don't. If you buy one of our appliances, you get a version of OmniPeek that's designed to work with your appliances. It's called Connect. So again, you can't use the standalone part of it, but you can connect your appliance and do everything you need to do, and that ships for free with the appliance.
Is it basically unlimited licenses, or like if you have five engineers, do all five get them?
So OmniPeek is licensed to a machine. Once you install it on a machine, it gets keyed to that machine. So depending on the user's workflow, if they have 5 engineers but they all go to the same terminal, they can all use it. That's not a problem. If each one wants it on their own laptops, then it's different licenses. Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. Cool. And then, so if you're interested in this kind of thing, is there training, certification? How do you how do you learn about it well enough to actually install it or deal with it or
Right.
such?
So in the past, we actually had a fairly extensive training organization. We even used to have something we called the Academy. We have found over the years that the desire for people to come to that kind of dedicated training, or even the budgets for it, have really kind of diminished. So mostly what we do nowadays is we have web-based training. We do have a set of courses that people can come to learn how to use OmniPeek, and it's all quite straightforward and easy to do. The web-based classes are nice. They're half-day sessions, usually 4 or 5 days in a row. We kind of have an entry-level class and then a more in-depth class on wired. Same thing on wireless, and same thing with VoIP. And we're in the process of converting a lot of those classes to just self-paced. So you don't even need to sit through it that way. You can just look at the modules, take the test. We do our own little certification, but it's not. You don't need to be certified to run OmniPeek, and there's no certification that others look for to do that. Learn how to use it. Now, the one other area. It's often OmniPeek is also often used in other people's training classes, especially in wireless. But so a lot of trainers out there that are training people in how to do network analysis, and people that are training, like I say, especially on the wire sites, the CWNAs and CWNPs and that kind of stuff. Those trainers use OmniPeek in their classes, so customers get exposure to it in that way as well.
But if somebody wanted a piece of paper, because like with the government bureaucracies, they love their little pieces of paper, but you don't have any pieces.
So no, we do. You can run through and take the test at the end of our class, and there is an OmniPeek certification, and we will provide that piece of paper. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you're talking about the on-site installation. Do you have any kind of dealer or reseller program for the equipment? Like if I was still a consultant, is there a way I can sell your product and make a few bucks off?
Yeah. No, there are. Anybody can come to us in that way. We do have a number of resellers across the country that we work through. We're not today with the big ones. It's not like we do CDW and those. It's typically smaller regional resellers, and typically more folks that are integrators. So they have the ability to put our product together with other products. Like maybe they would sell ours because they also sell an IDS IPS, for example, on the security side. So they would sell Vigil and the IDS IPS, or especially for the larger appliances where we need to take these network feeds in. A lot of times that works in conjunction with a network packet broker. Network packet brokers are basically very smart switches. So a network packet broker could take in like 100 gig feed off a very gigantic backbone, and then it'll offer like 64 or 128 other ports that you can just configure in any way you want to. So that 100 gig is coming in, and you can say, I want all the HTTP traffic out of that 100 gig, and I want it to go to this port. So those kinds of boxes, those are often sold in conjunction with network monitoring appliances like ours. So resellers that would sell those kinds of solutions together.
That's cool. So then you're saying you don't sell through CDW, which sounds odd. Can you say like why that is? Seems like your product would just
we don't today, but we could. It is a fairly it's a fairly technical sell, right? So because it is kind of this network oriented. It's a fairly complex product, and because of that, it does make it a little harder, with channels and resellers. There's some time that one needs to invest to really understand selling Savvius products.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess along those lines, how do you go out and how do you do client acquisition? Do you do events? Because like with your products, I mean, it's not like I can't imagine AdWords does very well for you. Like how do you find people?
Yeah, though I gotta say, AdWords do drive people to our website, which really does. Sometimes that's the start. So the AdWords help. We do a lot of events. A lot of regional events, that are networking oriented. We do some of our own network workshops where we invite people in and do a lengthy, but a real hands-on kind of troubleshooting of certain network problems. and give people a 30-day eval of the OmniPeek software when they leave, so they can play with it a little bit more. We do some of the larger trade shows as well. RSA, because of Vigil on the security side. We were interop attendees for decades and decades. So yeah, that whole range. We also do a lot of webinars. We try to do at least 2 webinars a month in our own webinar series, and we try for those not to be about our products, but more about industry trends. So that we can attract people and let them understand that we're more than just about our products. Those are actually very well attended. So those are all different ways that we do get really good lead sources in.
Yeah, because I always wonder, especially like I say, products for $25,000 and they're definitely not consumer. Like how you actually find somebody. Like even if I've got 25 grand, how do I know that you exist?
Right, and we're small, so right. Yeah, it's not like the marketing budget is in the tens of millions of dollars. It's not. But no, we I think through all those different forms of exposure that I mentioned, we do pretty well about finding the opportunities that are out there. Of course, we also have our own enterprise sales force, and they're often out, looking at who's updating a data center, who's maybe having a problem right now, that kind of thing. So that helps as well.
Now, with a company like yours, because one of the questions that always has to be asked, especially with the startups, is what happens when it gets bought by somebody. So it's kind of curious. You guys have been around for 25 years. Do you know why you haven't sold to a Cisco or to a Juniper or to somebody?
Yeah, no, I think part of it is just a corporate culture where it's a pretty independent spirit here. I think everybody likes what they do, and everyone's very committed to this company. It's not, I'm sure, it's not really a good question for me, only because I probably haven't been the one involved in any of that. I'm sure that there have been opportunities, but for whatever reason, probably deemed not to be the right opportunity, and we've just remained private for that reason. It definitely makes for a unique corporate culture, though. But I would say certainly not a bad one. Actually, it's a very good corporate culture, because some of the problems that come with either being public or being part of a public company, just aren't there for us. We don't have the pressures of shareholders. We don't even have the pressures of large investors, forcing things in a certain direction, and it gives us the freedom to make what I think are, I think we've made all the way along, the right choices about product in terms of moving forward and putting the right features and going in the right direction with our products.
Oh, cool. And then I guess the final question is, again, when I do these interviews, it's always for context. And so I have all these 18 and 19-year-olds out there trying to become tech professionals. What would your advice be? Like, if you were 18 again, what is like the geek sexy technology you'd be going after?
Boy, I hadn't thought about that. I'm kind of so engrossed on the networking side of things. It's hard to look past that. But certainly on the networking side, if I were that guy, I would be looking a whole lot about in the software-defined networks and that kind of areas. I really do think there's a fundamental shift coming on in networking where it's been slow to adopt, but I do think that software-defined networks are going to get adopted, and this ability where everything becomes very fluid with the network is going to happen. We're all very used to having a set IP address and always getting that IP address back, and networking being somewhat static. That is about to change. I think that's going to get turned on its head, and it's going to change a lot of things. It's also going to change the way we monitor. Change products like our own in the way we monitor networks and the way we look at networks. It's not going to be a static conversation anymore between 2 IP addresses. That all of a sudden that might change, or at least the location of where those services are coming from might change, and that will change things in the way we monitor. So from a networking perspective, that's certainly one of the things that I would be looking at. Also, just the whole notion of cloud. It's not new, but it's still new for a lot of companies, and moving things into the cloud and finding creative ways to move things into the cloud are just great opportunities right now for the younger people that are out there. And then you can't turn your back on the security side, boy. If whether you want to be whether you tend toward a white hat or tend toward a black hat, there are tremendous opportunities in the security space. There's a huge shortage right now of people that are really trained to do security analysis. Part of what we talked about with Vigil was doing this packet level analysis for alerts that come in. And even if you're not going down to the packet level, the ability to quickly analyze these alerts, the guys that are able to do that, the experts that are able to do that, are really, they're outnumbered right now by the quantity of alerts and the number of attacks and everything that's going on. And it's just an area that's very lucrative right now for the young individuals who want to make that part of their portfolio.
Do you know like how you get into that? Because again, one of the problems with my CCNA toilet paper back here, everybody's like focused on like the CCNA, like being a network person. Do you still think that's a good way to get in, or like with what you're talking about, how do you get tracked for what you're talking about there?
Yeah, I still think the certifications they help. I mean, but I look at our own company. I wouldn't say it's not like we necessarily hire because of a certification. It's really just more the experience. On that security side, part of it is just getting connected. Like things like Black Hat and shows like that and DEF CON. Part of it is just maybe I would invest more in that direction. Going to one of those and getting involved in the community and getting yourself introduced. If you do that and you show that you have chops, especially at something like DEF CON, that's kind of the way in. A lot of competitions right now that are on security, like at DEF CON and stuff, and you make a good showing there, and all of a sudden people know who you are.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Okay, well, I'm out of questions, and it seems like you've got some pretty good products over there. Are there any final things you'd like to tell the folks at home?
No, yeah, I guess I should say, yeah. Mainly just, I appreciate the opportunity, number one, Eli, from you, because probably the one challenge, and you mentioned it earlier, is just exposure. I mean, we're a company that's 26 years old, but not a lot of people know who we are. Yet we have a lot of customers, and we just want to broaden that. We're proud of the products that we have and the capabilities we have, both on the networking side and now on the security side. We bring just a wealth of expertise in the area of network-based packet analysis that really no other company brings, especially companies our size. It is our focus. We don't go beyond that. We're not trying to do packet shaping. We're not trying to sell customers a whole bunch of other products around our products. We focus on network performance and network diagnostics, and packets for security investigations. That's what we focus on. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to get a little more exposure out there for Savvius. It's truly appreciated.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. And so that was the interview today with the director of products with Savvius. So you do have a free there's like a 30-day evaluation if they want to check it out.
30-day eval on the website, and I'm pretty sure there's a button right on the main page to go get the eval. So just go to savvius.com and there should be a little blue box up toward the top of the page. Just click there and you can get a 30-day trial of OmniPeek.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Eli. Thanks very much.